Hey, it's Dr. Kate Walker, and I'm really happy to bring to you Eboni Harris. And I'm kind of bragging because she was one of my first associates, or interns, we called it back in the day. Mm-hmm. And now she has become this amazing, wonderful superstar in Texas and probably nationwide. So she's got her own private practice. She has a podcast, Room for Relation. She has a directory. She's co-founder of Melanin and Mental Health. I think she's got a gazillion followers on Instagram and all of the things. So she's going to talk to us today about money. So welcome, Eboni Harris, and yay.
Hi, thank you for having me. I mention you anytime I do an interview. They're like, how did you get started? I'm like, Kate Walker.
Yay.
Yes.
So tell us a little bit about the evolution of you, right? So how did you go just from being the LPC LMFT intern to you?
So it all happened when I walked into an office in the Woodlands. I'm just like, okay. So, I mean, it did though. I was lucky enough to meet you very randomly. I thought I had talked to you, but I hadn't talked to you. But then we ended up doing like a quick interview and you brought me on. And I always knew I wanted to do private practice, but I thought that was something you have to do agency work first and then move into private practice. But of course, you really do train us and educate us on how to go ahead and start your private practice as soon as you're fully licensed. So that was the start of that. So I was like, oh, okay, I don't have to do agency work. I did some just to get my hours, but for the most part, I've been in private practice since I first started seeing clients. And so that really did push me probably a lot quicker to meet other goals because I wasn't waiting the 5 or 10 years to get the experience before I started private practice and then before I started doing other stuff. So I was in private practice for around 6 or 7 years when I finally moved fully to Houston because we were between the Woodlands and Houston, Texas. And I fully moved to Houston, and that's when I saw a boom in my practice. I started seeing more clients that look like me. Like 99% of my clients are Black, from the Black community, which I love working with my community. And from there, I started using social media. I always kind of enjoyed, because I feel like I'm an introvert. So I've always enjoyed like being at a computer. Like I build websites and I do online things. And so social media was a way for me to talk about my business without actually having to go out and talk to people. And so I was using social media a lot more back then. And I actually met Elisa Bokeen via social media. I was coming from a networking lunch and I posted on my Snapchat like, hey, don't be scared to meet new people. And so she slid in my DMs and she was like, I want to do lunch. So we met. And then from there, we were discussing just the difficulty in finding Black and Latinx therapists, especially because clients, a lot of times, while they do want help and they're looking for an expert, they also sometimes just pick us because like, okay, you look like me, maybe you can relate to me a little more. And so that conversation continued to happen until we finally decided to do something about it. And Melanin and Mental Health was born. We were doing meetups. We have a directory. We have our merchandise, podcasts, all kind of stuff. And like you said, our social media following is pretty good. And so that has grown into a big part of what I do. So now my focus is typically just my private practice at Melanin Mental Health. I do have Room for Relations podcast, which is a sex and relationship podcast. But that's kind of paused, but all the 500 episodes that I did are still out there.
500 episodes?
Yes, we did a lot of episodes.
Now, didn't you tell me once I told you that I had subscribed to it and you were like, oh.
Don't.
Oh, wait.
Yes, it is. So the conversation is basically me as like a therapist friend, but I'm not like a therapist, in the therapist role. So we're just talking about like sex and relationships and beliefs and news and all kind of stuff related to that. And it was specifically around like within the Black community, like our beliefs and things like that. But yeah, it was something that I was like, I don't want my supervisor to listen to it because I wasn't like sharing all my business, but we talked about sex and relationships. And, I had to see you weekly. So I just didn't want you to know what was going on.
It's like telling your mom, right?
Exactly.
Telling your mom.
It's like, I don't want you to be like, so I heard you gave some good information, but also you shared this thing. And I'm like, no. So yeah, I was definitely like, and it's interesting because that was something which is part of the reason why I kind of paused on it, because it's still there. Room for Relations will be a thing in the future, but I didn't want to have to feel like there's such a separation between like, if my clients found it and I'd be like, oh, what did I say this week? Like, I don't know what, and so I wanted to revamp that. So like I said, the episodes are still there, but I definitely want to revamp it to be a lot more educational. I always said, edutainment was what we wanted to do. So we wanted to make it fun and interesting, but people learn. So it'll definitely come back with a new iteration in the future. But right now, melanin mental health and my practice is what's taking up most of my time.
Excellent. Well, so how did you learn about money?
So I did a lot of work around this a few years ago because I was realizing that I was making money. I always felt like I didn't have any money. And then I started to realize like, no, I did my taxes one year and I was like, you made a nice little salary for yourself considering I was working for myself. You know, I made money and I didn't know where it went. And so then I started to do some work around like, well, why do I always feel like I don't have enough? What is going on there? And what I realized is growing up, we didn't talk about money. And if it was a conversation, it was always not enough. It was always money doesn't grow on trees. You know, you don't know how much that costs, or we can't afford that. It was always in the perspective of lack or scarcity. And so I realized that I've always just felt like I was behind when it came to that area of my life. And so I truly took some time to sit down and say, okay, if you're making this amount of money, like, how much do I owe? Like, how much are my bills on? Because, like, why do I not have enough once I'm done with the end of the year? And so once I did that, it kind of shifted my mindset. But before that, there was no conversations around money with my family. When we talked about money, even when I was working for you, and I remember you were like, the rate will be 140. And I was like, who's paying that? Like, who's going to pay 140? And even when I was looking for a therapist, I was like, I have to find like the cheapest therapist now. I pay like 150 for my therapist, like, you know, but at the time, it just money kind of scared me, I think, because there was just no conversation. And all I knew was it took from you. It felt like it felt like it was always like you always owed somebody and all of that. And then even I always think about when I got my first credit card. And my mom, you know, did the best she could. But when I turned 18, she took me to the bank, got me a credit card and was like, here, so when you're in college, you'll use this. It wasn't you'll use this and I'll pay it off. It was just you'll use this if you need to buy something.
Right.
And so I was running it up. And then every month I'd be like, I have to pay this. I have to figure this out. So it really, like, I had a whole debt-free journey that I went on just because I did have a lot of credit card bills and things like that, because I just didn't know how to use these different tools. I'm in a completely different space now, which is amazing. So that's why I really enjoy talking about money, especially when it comes to personal and business expenses. Well,
and what's coming to my mind, the amazing trips you would take. Like you came to supervision once and you were like, I just got this trip to Bahrain? No, Abu Dhabi.
Abu Dhabi and Dubai.
And I was like
$99. It was like,
how did you find this? And you're like, I don't know. And here it is. And I'm going. And I was like, so you definitely figured this out. You want to talk to us about getting your financial life together and using your expertise. I'm reading my notes. Using your expertise to make money. So talk about that.
So to me, there are just 3 simple steps to make any changes in life. I've applied it in a lot of different areas, and this is what I do a lot with my clients too. And the first step is always to just assess. We always want something different, but we don't always know where we're at in that moment. So when I went through my financial journey, my debt-free journey, the first thing I did was like spend 3 months looking at my business expenses and my personal expenses and really saying, how much money do I need to make a month to just cover that? And that was like basic necessities, credit card bills, and my expenses for my business. And so once I got that number, it wasn't as much as I thought, right? So I realized, okay, I can make this. If I think I need to see like 10 clients at that point. If I see 10 clients a week and I be mindful of how I'm spending money outside of like going out to eat and all that type of stuff, I really do have enough to pay all of my stuff and have money kind of sitting in my business account to kind of grow that. It wasn't a lot of money, but there was money there. And there was money left over for me to be able to enjoy my life, but I just couldn't do it to the extent that I was doing it before. But to me, when I first started that, when I decided to stop just spending the money as I got it, and to really look at it like this is a business and this business pays you, that made a big difference. So, but again, before I got there, I was watching. I was just like, every month I would go through every single thing I spent money on, because I only use my credit card, my bank account card, and my business card. And so I was like, okay, what am I spending money on? And where's all this money going? So I did that for 3 months, just paying attention and watching it. I decided to really look at what are my business expenses and what are my personal expenses, because they were all kind of muddled together at that point. I knew I needed to separate the two. And then I wanted to make sure I understood what my habits were and how I was spending, like what was the things I was spending the most money on. Then I decided, where do I want to go? Right. So now I've assessed where I'm at. What are my goals? So what are my income goals? What do I want to do with the money? Do I want to do savings, investing? I was really learning about like retirement. Obviously, sometimes when you're in private practice, you don't think about the future. Just like, I'm just going to work, which I probably still work, but I now have retirement account and things like that. So I wanted to make sure I learned how to invest in myself now and in the future. And so I really got clear on what were my financial goals. And then after I decided where I wanted to go, then I kind of made a plan and a roadmap to get there. So I knew I wanted to get debt free, not have any credit card debt or anything like that. I knew I wanted to build my savings. I knew I didn't want to be at zero at the end of every month. So those are the things I wanted to focus on. So make a plan to get there. And the first thing I always tell therapists, just because I know most therapists don't do this, but raise your fees, because probably you're not charging enough. So, I learned from Kate the formula to be able to like, what do you want to make? How many weeks are you going to work? And how many clients do you need to see? And then calculate your fees from there. And even when you do that, probably add like $20 to $30 on top of that once you calculated that.
Yep.
And be honest about if you can get to your goals by just seeing clients, or do you need to add other streams of income, right? Because if you say, I need to make $120,000 a year to like survive and enjoy my life and all of that, but that means I have to see 30 clients a week, and that's just not realistic for me, then that means you have to start thinking about other ways to make money, because it may not be sustainable. I know for me, I never wanted to like do like a full 5 days a week seeing clients. That was never my goal. And so I know now my max is 20, only because I struggle, which is why I have to close my books, because I struggle to tell people no sometimes. So my max is 20, but really 15 is my sweet spot. Like that's where I want to be a week, to feel comfortable, to know I'm having enough money, and to feel like I don't have to like limit myself. Because I remember I was watching, it was a Black financial expert. I can't think of his name. I think it's Boyce Watkins, but he said I had to learn how to either budget my money or to make more money. And so for me, it was like make more money, because I don't want to have to limit myself. But so I needed to figure out, what does that look like? How many clients, all of that. So be realistic about what's sustainable, and not just, okay, I just need to see all these clients so I can make the money, because if you burn out early, then it's not going to help anybody.
And so your expertise, you rolled that into making more money.
Yes. So once I realized, okay, this is the number of clients I need to see to make this amount of money, but there's other ways for me to make money as well. So early on, I would do things like, I love building websites. Like I said, I like to be behind a computer. So I would build websites for people. I like the social media piece. So I might help people with marketing. I did some coaching, things like that. But then I started to realize, okay, I need to start finding a way to make money where I don't have to be in it all the time, right? Because again, this still leads to burnout. If you're still working another 20, 40 hours outside of your clients, you still can have burnout, because your time is only a certain amount of time. So there were things in the beginning that I love to do that I started doing, but then I stopped. Like I stopped building websites. I only built for myself. I still do coaching here and there, but what I wanted to focus on are things that didn't require my presence. So with Melanin and Mental Health, like you said, we have a directory of Black and Latinx therapists. We have merchandise that we sell. We do webinars or events and things like that. So I would say I'm going to give just 3 ideas. One is merchandise. So, and do drop shipping. So that way you don't have to like package and send it out. There are websites that sell almost everything. And so find out what you want to sell. If it's cute little t-shirts that says respect my boundaries, or if it's mugs or totes or pins, whatever, just find out what you want to sell, find a drop shipper, set it all up. And that way they pay for it through you. The drop shipper send it. You don't have to do anything in between, right? Digital products is also a good one, right? So if you want to do like ebooks, journals, worksheets, guided meditations and affirmations, you want to do a webinar, you record an hour-long webinar and then you sell it, like things like that just can live on your website. So people can kind of go. And I also love this for clients that aren't quite sure if they want to start therapy, and then they already kind of get resources and things, but you're still getting money from it. And then the last one, which is still a digital product, is a course. And so it's technically a digital product, but I feel like it's a lot more involved. And you can also make significant money because you can charge a lot more for a course. And so right now I have my relationship reset course. And the reason why I came up with that was because in the first 4 or 5 sessions of my therapy sessions, especially with couples or individuals, I tend to say the same thing over and over and over again. And it's a lot of psychoeducation involved in those first few sessions. So I was like, how can I package this so people can kind of come in and learn all this stuff without me having to just say it over and over. And I knew I wanted to focus my practice on deeper work. So I wanted to focus more on, okay, you know what's healthy, so let's figure out what's blocking you from getting there, versus spending a month or two trying to teach people what's healthy. So that's how I ended up coming up with this course. And so it's for couples and individuals.
Great idea.
Yeah, to get the basic understanding of what's a healthy relationship, and understand what they need to work on personally to feel like they're their best self in a relationship. And then at that point, once they do the course and they're still like, okay, I get that now, I need to figure out what the blocks are and how to get past that, then they can do therapy. I mean, of course they could do therapy before, but I just like the idea of not having to tell them over and over and over the same stuff.
Well, that goes to your next point, which is avoiding burnout.
Right. Because when you have other streams of income, that is less pressure for you to have a high number of clients in your practice, right? And while we all want to be ethical therapists and we want to make sure that we are clear on like, okay, this is what they need, or this is how often they need to come, or maybe they have graduated from what I can give them, need to go to someone else. When we are worried about money, we become human, right? And when we're thinking about, I have bills to pay, and oh my God, did this client drop out? I have to keep this number, and then we become kind of obsessed. And while even that process of trying to make sure that you separate your humanness from your therapy business person, from, the ethical therapist, all of that is work. And that creates this pressure and this difficulty in really being able to show up as you want to in therapy as a therapist. And it can create, like you said, this burnout of, I have to keep this number, I have to, and you're working and marketing and all of this stuff, which is all a part of having the business. And so when you have these other streams, if someone calls and they're not a good fit, okay, that's fine. I have these things that you can go check out, or I can give you referrals, and I'll feel comfortable because I know I have other ways to make money where I don't have to like hoard my clients.
I love that. And so I'm going to poke at it though, because it sounds to me like you were getting a little bored with those first. So by packaging it into something clients could download, it helped that too.
Right. Because while I enjoy the fact that, and this is something I learned from you. Right. And while I enjoy the idea that most clients come in and their minds are blown, right? They're like, oh my God, I never thought, and that's great. But it felt repetitive.
Yeah.
And so and I knew that if I keep doing this over and over, and I have to do this for the next 10, 15 years, it is going to be like, okay, like it takes a while to get to, and I remember I had a client tell me this early on. She was like, I just hate that it takes so long to get to the deep stuff. And I was like, oh yeah, that does make sense. I get that. But at that point I was like new, and I was like, I know what I'm saying in this part. The rest of it, I might not be as confident as, but now that I have more confidence in like the actual work that I'm able to do, like that part can be packaged and given to them. And so that way, when they come, they already kind of have that information, and we can just get straight into like, okay, but let's start working on these blockages. Let's start working on these beliefs that are causing the issue. So yes. And boredom is another reason for burnout, right? When
Absolutely.
you're saying the same thing over and over again.
Absolutely. All right. So what's a mistake? What's a money mistake you found and had to fix? And
I think first was just paying myself as it came in. So as I made money, then I would spend money. And that was that. Like there was no separation of business and personal. And I think that was a big thing, because then again, when we're talking about, if I don't have clients this week and I don't have money sitting in my business account, how do I pay myself? So what I do now is I technically pay myself once a month, but I put my weekly salary, which is the same every single week, into a savings account, and then I pay myself on the first of the month. So that way I always the money is coming, and I've learned it helps in budgeting as well, because I have a set amount, just like if I had a W-2 job, right? I have a set amount of money that's coming to me every week, so I can budget for that. Versus this week I made $1,000, next week I made $2,000, this week I made $200. Then my brain can't, for me, it doesn't work well. So that was the first thing I did, was not to take the money as it comes in, but to actually separate it. And I had a friend, when I first started doing the budgeting, she works in finance, and she was like, you are a line item in your business, so you need to add that to that. I wasn't thinking in that way. And so when I do my business budget, when I do my expenses, I am one of the expenses. And so that helps me conceptualize like how much money needs to come in. And that includes my salary. So I feel like that was the biggest one, was just as money was coming in, I was spending it, and then would be confused as to why I didn't have any left at the end of the year.
I love it. So what would you leave viewers with? What would be just a good money lesson you'd like to leave us with?
Taking care of your finances and your budget is a form of self-care. I believe that self-care is taking care of your past, present, and future. Past typically means therapy. Present is activities that bring you joy now. And future means taking care of your future self, which is budgeting, finances, things like that. And so I love that when I'm looking at my income or when I'm planning my month out, that this is me making sure that this month I won't be as stressed, right? This is me taking care of myself in 2 weeks, 3 weeks, where I'm not overthinking and being concerned about where the money is going to come from and all of that. So I think when you learn to like kind of shift your mindset, and when you learn how to budget and use money as a tool, then it really can help you as far as your own stress levels and increasing your self-care.
I'm so proud.
Thank you.
I love that.
Thank you.
Well, thank you, Eboni, so much for sharing your words of wisdom about money. And I know it's funny because when I reached out, I was like, you can talk to me about so many things. So we just kind of picked money. So I will probably be knocking on your door again, just so that you can talk to us about multiple streams of income. Tell us again about your course. Tell us, you don't do any coaching right now, but you have other things going on.
Yes. So the course is the biggest thing. It's at my website, eboniharris.com. And it's a course that focuses on understanding what is healthy when it comes to relationships, what you need to work on personally when it comes to relationships, how to communicate, how to understand the blocks and the parts of you that pop up that make it difficult for you to talk to your partner, or that creates defensiveness and all of that. And it's really to help you get a overall understanding of a healthy relationship. And then that way, if you come see me or go see another therapist, you already have a really good baseline of like, I understand this is the stuff and I understand where I'm bringing my fault or where I'm bringing my issues into this relationship. And it helps in not going in automatically thinking it's the other person, because that's what we typically do, right? So it really helps you. The course, while I say it's for couples and individuals, it's an individual journey, but I like, if it's a couple, I'll give them like homework for them to be able to do together. Mm-hmm. But it really is about you understanding more about yourself so that you can be healthier in your relationship. So that's the biggest thing. And then of course, Melanin and Mental Health, if you want to support us trying to get more Black and Brown therapists as therapists and more Black and Brown people in therapy, then that's the place to go.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Eboni.
Thank you.
I'll see ya. I'm going to hit pause.